I think one of the most offensive components, not the most, but one of the most offensive components of the Rings of Power was this idea that they forged the three rings for the Elven Kings before all of the other rings, when the established lore clearly states that the three rings were forged last in secret and probably took around 90 years according to established lore. We're going to be diving into that today because a lot of people have theorized that, oh, well, maybe Sauron forged the other rings in secret on the Rings of Power show and they just haven't shown it yet. I don't think that's the case. I think they're doing whatever the hell they want because they've shown that they don't respect the lore at all whatsoever. Anyway, we're going to dive into the actual timeline for the forging of the Rings of Power, which supposedly is where they're deriving their entire show from. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfell, the Bearded Dwarven Princess. Welcome back to another rant video. If you've been here before, you know the drill. If you're not and you're new, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you get more like this delivered to you every time I have new videos out, which is most mornings at 6 a.m. in the rant series, and then other videos throughout the day. You can support a couple of simple ways. On premieres like this, super chats and stickers, I'm hanging out, typing with y'all in the chat every single time we have a video going live. And then after the fact, if it's an upload, you can do a one-off on a super thanks, or the better option is to join as a member of the Adventurers Guild with 3 tiers of membership. Super simple. Hopefully you'll pick one of those ways. Keep me on the air and show your support for the channel. In the meantime, let's dive into this timeline. And I am going to apologize in advance for the kittens that you're hearing in the background. I've got a couple of Merry and Pippin who got spayed a few days ago, and they're currently on lockdown because they're trying to fight with each other with stitches. So they're in their little containers and they're crying a lot. So I apologize in advance for that. It says here the Rings of Power were created. 19 rings, we already know about that. For those of you who don't, and then the 20th ring was the One Ring, or the Ruling Ring, which is secretly forged in the fires of Mount Doom. Now, we saw Sauron, aka Halbrand, in the final episode of the first season of Rings of Power, making his way to Mount Doom. He was already in Mordor at the end of the first season, so he can't have forged any of the rings yet, we would think, because he actually was there helping the elves forge the 3 rings in secret. Oh, wait, they didn't sell it? Were they in secret? I don't know. Were they in secret? We don't know yet. The theory is that maybe they just did this off screen and that the lesser rings that they talked about, which were being forged, were somehow just turned into the rings that are going to the dwarves and stuff. I don't know what they're doing with the lore yet. They're throwing it all out the window. So here's what actually happened according to Tolkien Gateway, which is the best resource out there I've found, what many people have recommended. I'm not going to go digging through the books and giving you page numbers and referencing things like this is some sort of a college level essay. No, we're going to be using online tools for this. So according to this, the 3 rings were forged by Celembrimbor alone. And yet, in the show, we had Galadriel and Elrond present for the forging of the rings. Not only were they present, but they were sort of the reason why these rings came into existence in the first place, because we had whatever. He according to the original lore, he forged them alone, and they were never touched by Sauron. They were made last, however, and their forging involved some of the arts taught by Annatar, Halbrand. Thus, they too were bound to the One Ring to some extent. 7, it says here, 6 rings were given to the dwarf lords by Sauron himself, though according to dwarvish tradition, the elves gave one of those to Durin's 3, which doesn't make any sense because Durin 3 in the show doesn't like the elves. I don't know. Anyway, the dwarves then used their 7 rings to establish their treasure hoard, Sauron being unable to force them to submit because of their natural hardiness, according to this page. It said the remaining 9 then were given to evil-hearted men who saw their abilities increase and became sorcerers and kings among men, and then eventually became the Nazgul, aka the Ringwraiths. Blah, 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 blah. We know all of this. We know the rhythm, we know the rhyme. 3 kings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them on in the darkness, bind them, In the land of Mordor is where the shadows lie. All right, it says here creation. This is the part I really want to focus on for this video, so you'll forgive me and indulge me for doing the other ranting and raving here. Around Second Age 1200, Sauron started to corrupt the elves. He did not manage to approach Gil-galad and Elrond, but had better luck with the elven smiths of Eregion. I'm going to butcher these pronunciations. The Gwaith y Myrdain of Eregion were mostly Noldor, and wished to have the same joys in Middle-earth as the elves who would return to Valinor. Sauron therefore presented himself as Annatar, an emissary from the Valar, and tempted the elves by offering them knowledge to transform Middle-earth. Now, in the show, they do sort of hint at the fact that Adar said that Sauron's obsession was with reshaping Middle-earth into a perfect creation. In any case, it says here that Annatar taught the smiths the knowledge of how to create the rings, which would grant the elves who wear them certain powers. It says at first the elves created some lesser rings, which they showed in the show as being flawed and faulty and breaking. And it says here they were only essays in the craft before it was fully grown. Now, there's a 300-year period here between 1200 Second Age and 1500 where Sauron began to corrupt the elves and the forging of the Great 16. The Greater 16, it says, which, in any case, there's a 300-year period of here. We don't know exactly how long it took to forge, at least nothing is represented here. Somebody out there, if you've got knowledge of how long it actually took to forge the other rings, I'd love to hear your theories and thoughts below, or your source material, please. What it does say here is that when Annatar departed from Eregion, Celembrimbor went on to forge the three rings using the knowledge he had gained from Annatar, but without his involvement, and finished them around 1590, which is a 90-year period, roughly. That's what I've been told. That's what I'm reading here. That's what we're understanding to be the established timeline for how long it took to forge the three rings was around 90 years. It then says that Sauron then created the One Ring about 10 years later in Second Age 1600 alone in the heart of Mount Doom. So in total, if we actually start with the 1200 when he started to teach them, we don't actually see exactly when they started to forge. We just have this timeline of 1500s. So even if we take the 1500 and break that down from 1500 to 1590 when Celebrimbor finished the three rings, we have a 90-year period of time where the 19 rings were created, and then 10 years later we have Sauron creating the One Ring. So whether it's 90 years or 300 years or whatever the case may be, it is not the timeline established in the show, which and correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't watched the episodes in a few weeks, but if I'm not mistaken, they had the timeline for the creation of the rings at 3 weeks-ish that they created those rings, and then that was when they had their aha moment, and let me show you this. So she's underneath a laundry basket, she's moving it around, she's upset, and Pippin, this is Mary. Pippin's over in the cat carrier. They're being very upset. I'm sorry, everybody, but they were running around trying to break each other's stitches. So, in any case, whether we're talking about 90 years or 300 years, it's a long period of time, much longer than they showed taking place in the Rings of Power show. But more importantly, is the simple fact that it says here that Celebrimbor forged the three rings in secret. So, three rings by himself in secret after all of the other 16 had been created, with the exception of the one being the 20th. But it was those are the last three rings being forged. And in the Rings of Power show, we are shown that they forged these three rings first. So either they're telling us that the other 16 rings were forged off screen, or they're going to be messing with the timeline more than they already have done so, and having those rings be created during season 2 and season 3. But I'm not sure how they're going to be doing that, because Sauron was supposed to be present for the forging of all of those other rings during established timelines through established Second Age lore. So I'm not sure what they plan on doing with the second season of Rings of Power, because Sauron, aka Halbrand, aka sorry, he's supposed to be Annatar, was supposed to be present for all of those. So I don't know what they're doing with it. Your guess is as good as mine. In any case, I'm going to keep this one a little shorter, guys, because I got to go take care of cats. So in the meantime, if you like this episode, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Don't forget to follow along for more. Support in any way you can. Like you said at the beginning of the episodes, let's go ahead and get Mary up here because she's being very upset. Come here. You want to come say hi to everybody so people can see you being very upset? Oh, now you're going purr, purr, purr. Come here. Let's say hi. Little cat cone on. Yeah, you're being naughty with your stitches. They are just naughty little girls. Oh yeah, now you're being quiet and calm. He's like, don't put me back under the laundry box, Dad. Anyway, everybody, thanks for following along. I appreciate the support. Love to hear your theories and comments down below. What are they doing with the three rings and the established timelines? I don't know how they're going to be doing the forging of the other rings. I can't wait to see because I'm sure it's going to be a train wreck. Until next time, everybody, stay safe.